What is going on, guys? Joey Franza here at FLEXX Training Systems. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about why I always try to keep a couple beginners on my roster, beginner intermediates on my roster. Intermediate, beginner, I would say an intermediate is someone who they know how to do the lifts. Maybe they've ran a basic program, and their noob gains have kind of slowed down, but they don't really have a coach and they haven't really been coached, to really bring out the potential. Whereas a beginner is someone who, they've never had a coach, they're still trying to learn the lifts. They're very early on in their sort of development, and they need a lot of work with form and things like that. So I try to work with beginners. I keep some beginners on my roster. Well, for me personally, we have a lot of coaches on FLEXX, and we're taking all kinds of new people all the time. But for me personally, a lot of people assume Joey only works with super high level top people. I do work with a lot. I do work with a lot of very high level people. But for me as a coach, I personally like to work with a couple beginners because when you're coaching a beginner, you have to think of teaching in a way that would work for a beginner and not so much, if you were doing it with a super elite lifter as kind of just review for them, right? You're going over the same stuff, over and over and over, and it's they don't need that. They don't need that. You know what I mean? They're already pretty established. So what do I mean by this? Let me give you an example. So let's say Keiko, for example, or Russ, or I don't know, Jesus, or any of my top guys, right? The Mikeys, Delaney, stuff like that. They check in when they're supposed to check in, and I am more so looking for recovery habits, how are they recovering, where's their strength at, are they doing the right RPEs. I'm mindful of their form. I'm making sure that they don't forget their technique, right? Sometimes we'll squat and we'll just put our feet in a weird position and we're not thinking about it. I've noticed when people are traveling and they're at a random gym and they're squatting maybe inside of a rack, when normally they're just squatting out in the open, without the side rails or the rails behind them. They might subconsciously, because in their peripheral vision there's something there, they might bring their stance in a little bit closer than normal. So I'm just kind of keeping them in line and making sure that they go the right way. With a beginner, and a lot of times, sorry, I'm jumping around, but a lot of times with a freaking, you can call him a pro, you can call him a world level lifter, a world class lifter, they got to that level because they didn't think about their form. They weren't overthinking their form. Their form is locked in, right? There was probably a point where they had to find the right stance for their body type, what feels best. But now, after a certain point, a lot of that is you're not constantly telling an elite lifter, please hit depth, please hit depth. They know to hit depth, right? And they can do some things and get away with some things that others cannot. Whereas with the beginner, I'm constantly looking to, we're working on fixing their form. I'm helping them through the mental struggles of dealing with adversity and training. Whereas an elite lifter has already been through this. They already know what it is. They don't ever they don't get down on themselves. They don't get sad. They don't get discouraged when things aren't going well because they know what it is and they've done it a million times, and then they can get even better at it because they know that they know the realm they're supposed to work in and what they're looking for at certain points of prep. So they can make even better decisions than them. I'm not with them in the gym all the time. And there might be, I'm not available 100% of the time. So there's going to be times where they're going to have to make a call or a decision, and an elite lifter is going to be able to make the best decisions when they're on their own, as opposed to, a beginner who is going to run into a lot of situations that they haven't worked through with the coach yet. They don't really know how to get through it. And that's where a coach can really come in handy. Like if I were to coach a beginner the way I coach an elite lifter, it might not work for them. Now, I think the key is to be adaptive, but like, you know, I can't just, I'm not going to just sign off on their lifts, especially when there's a lot of things that I can teach them. And I try to use every couple weeks here and there, I'll try to say a little bit, I'll try to overcoach a little bit. Like I'll give them a little bit more than they need just so they can kind of have that information. A lot of them can just like look at my channel. By the way, we hit 1 million views overall. That's pretty cool, I guess. That my videos have been clicked on 1 million times. Like, what the fuck? It's pretty crazy. But, you know, no production value, just slow and steady, churning out videos once a week. You know what I mean? So, pretty crazy. Anyway, sorry to get sidetracked. I know you guys just enjoy listening to me talk. But, we touched on it briefly. Beginners, mentally, they're going to need a little bit more help. I just had 2 girls compete recently, and there was their first time competing, and those like 2 to 3 weeks out, maybe 10 days away from the meet, that's when like you're really feeling like shit. Everything's really starting to feel like just heavier than normal. Your confidence is at all-time low. The way that I like to bring people into meets, I'm going to beat you up. I'm not going to beat you up that bad, but you're going to be fatigued. Your body's going to feel it a little bit. And then we're going to pull it all down, and you're going to be stronger than you've ever been. So I had to really help her through that situation and just let her know, like, hey, this is perfectly normal. There's nothing for you to worry about. Like, this is intentional, totally planned. And I think you're going to be okay. And then after the meet, you know, I told her, I said, look, if I didn't peak you correctly, if I didn't taper you right, then you would be strong after the meet as well. Like, literally right after the meet, that week, you'd be hitting big numbers, right? You guys ever see people like they'll compete and you know they'll have a good meet or a decent meet and then they hit like a PR like the week after? There's a lot of different reasons for that. One of the reasons, assuming they didn't gain a bunch of body weight, is because they didn't peak right and they peaked before they were going to be at their best. You still caught the like sort of uptrend, right? And you competed like when you were, you know, generally stronger than you've ever been in prep, but you could have been even stronger had you been a little bit more precise. I think with dudes, there's a little bit more of a window because of the testosterone and whatnot. We have like, you have like a week where you're going to be really strong, or a couple of days, 5 days, something like that. Whereas like with girls, you know, if you ain't giving their body a reason to hold on to muscle, they're going to just feel detrained a little bit immediately after. And I had to help her through that mentally, whereas like with an elite lifter, they already know what that is. They already know, like, yeah, I'm probably going to feel a pretty weak after the meet, and I know that, like, you know, things are going to get tough right up until the very end, and then I'm going to get bailed out, and I'm going to be good to go. But for me as a coach, it's helpful for me to work with beginners because I'm constantly having to kind of go way back in my mind and oh, okay, you know, it's a beginner now, I got to teach them this lesson. Okay, I got to teach them this lesson. So, or beginner, intermediate, people that are just like, they have a lot of potential and they haven't reached it yet. And they mentally just haven't experienced, you know, kind of what it is to really go through a powerlifting prep. So it helps me to just kind of never forget those lessons. You know, like I could imagine if you only work with people with perfect form, you're not really, I might be scanning it, but I'm not really like coaching it. I'm not really like trying to fix it. So, you know, it's just one of those things that I think for me personally, it's a great opportunity for a newer lifter to work with someone of a high caliber like myself. And it's also, you know, it keeps me having to just really kind of go back into like my memory banks to work with like these really simple, easy concepts that they probably don't know yet. And it kind of helps me just sort of sharpen, you know, those lessons more and more. And, you know, it's just, it keeps me honest, right? It keeps me from just only working with like super ridiculously strong people like constantly. I mean, yes, I do that, and that is something that I feel like I need to do in order to push the sport forward. I have to continue to help the top people get even higher, and continue to push limits even higher. but you know, working with beginners keeps me sharp on those early lessons. I think I think this can also help the lifter learn a lot about themselves at an early place in their career. I know damn well I wish I would have had like if I early on, you know, if I would have like had guidance, I probably would have like a lot less issues that I'm dealing with today, if that makes sense. In terms of like injuries and stuff, I used to be very aggressive in the gym. Let's just say that. But anyway, you know, there's. I just wanted to share that with you guys because I feel like people think that me personally, I only work with like high end lifters, and I do work with a lot of them, and that does like fire me up. But I also try to really look at my roster and see like, okay, like are my beginners like not beginners anymore? Like is our communication basically me just making sure the recovery and RPEs are on point and that we're moving in the right direction and we're not so much working on form or teaching them those mental lessons. And if everybody's like, you know, pretty autopilot now, then I try to look for, you know, beginners that I feel like can really benefit, and they can also really help me kind of have to coach, you know, those early levels of development in a lifter. But anyway, that's it. That's it for the video. Thank you guys for making it this far. I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I remember when I started my channel, I think I started in 2016. And I just said, I'm going to post once a week and just be consistent. And I never stopped all this time. I might have missed a week here and there, but I never stopped. And, you know, you just keep going, one day you're going to eventually hit 1 million views. So anyway, I don't know why my Alexa's talking in the back. If you guys made it this far, let me get a hashtag family in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.